Morning Glory, America. Senator Tom Cotton's been a regular guest on our program for a long time. He is chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee. He represents the great state of Arkansas, and he is third-ranking Republican in the Senate. Senator Cotton is also a graduate of Harvard Law School, knows his way around the Constitution, was on judiciary for a long time. Senator, the story about Joe Biden is tragic. It's no fun having metastatic prostate cancer that's gone to your bones. It'll be painful even if he recovers. But do you feel as though Team Biden was telling us the truth about anything ever?
I think that's an open question. And while we certainly wish Joe Biden all the very best for a full and speedy recovery and send our prayers to the Biden family, I'm not sure they deserve the benefit of the doubt on this question, given the way they demonstrably covered up his mental decline, as we could all see at the time. But as now we also know from new reporting, in which, amusingly enough, reporters keep trying to point the finger at Democrats as if the Democrats were the ones who covered it up and not the media in league with the Democrats. Although we wish Joe Biden all the best for full and speedy recovery and send our prayers to him and his family, I think there are questions to be asked about either the quality of care he was receiving as president or what and how forthcoming the president and his family and the senior team are with the American people.
Now, Senator, the 25th Amendment provides in Section 4, whenever the vice president and a majority of either the principal officers of the executive departments or such other body as Congress may by law provide, transmit to the president pro tem of the Senate and the Speaker of the House a written declaration of the blah, blah, blah. Do you think we need to maybe have a statute on such other body as the Congress provides? You don't have to get an amendment through Congress. You just need a joint resolution.
Hugh, I haven't given enough thought. I will say that I think the 25th Amendment in some ways was poorly drafted and has within it the seeds of potential crises in the future. So I would be a little reluctant to take authority away from persons who've been elected by the American people or confirmed by us in the Senate. I think the best thing to do would have had a president and his family and administration that would level with the American people. Even a cancer diagnosis, Hugh, at least certain kinds of cancers, is not something that would cause the 25th Amendment to be invoked. You know, and I know, and I suspect most of your listeners know as well, many people who have received a cancer diagnosis and undergone treatment, but largely continued their normal day-to-day life and routine.
Yeah, well, Dwayne had cancer, but he never produced anything anyway, so no one noticed when he was going through chemo. But you're right.
Dwayne did not have a phalanx of doctors and nurses and other caregivers around him with a special suite at one of the nation's leading hospitals that was just a short helicopter ride away from his front lawn. And that's what any president has at Walter Reed.
Yeah, I don't get it. I don't get it. Now, Senator, you're on Intel. And when I was long ago and far away, when I had clearances and there would be a meeting with the then Attorney General Smith or then Attorney General Meese, we would get briefings from the CIA on the individuals coming in to see the AG if they were from a foreign country. And they would tell us about the individual, including mental acuity and how they got their job and what their background was. Do you suppose our enemies had a pretty good fix on Joe Biden's mental condition, physical condition?
Well, of course they did, Hugh, because normal Americans did. They could just watch what they saw in front of their eyes. They didn't need to have, the White House butler or the president's secretary on their payroll. I think most of them just saw with their own eyes that Joe Biden had been in fairly severe decline, not just when he was president, Hugh, or during the 2024 presidential debates, but all the way back to the 2020 campaign as well. The original sin, to use the title of the book that's coming out this week, was not Joe Biden running for re-election in 2024. It was probably running for election in the first place, and the Democrats locking arms around him then to help secure him the nomination, even though his decline was manifest at the time. So I think, of course, our adversaries had Joe Biden's number from the very beginning, before he was even in the White House in 2021.
Now, Mary Catherine Ham has raised the specter, which I was not really thinking about. They might need the money. Biden Inc. might just need the money. They might have needed to stay in office because the speeches have dried up and the paintings aren't selling now, for President Biden's son, Hunter. What do you make of that theory, Senator Cotton?
Back in 2019 and 2020?
Yeah.
Well, it's possible. I also think that's not mutually exclusive with Joe Biden's overwhelming, all-consuming ambition to be president going back to his young adulthood. I mean, remember, this is a man who was elected to the Senate before he was the constitutionally required age of 30. He turned 30 between his election and his swearing in. So this is not a man who lacked for ambition or the belief in himself to be president, and he had run twice before he finally was able to get into the White House. So it's possible, and, it seems like they had a pretty good grip going for 8 years when he was the vice president, and that they thought they might renew it if he was elected president. But I also don't think you should ever discount just the simple, bald, overwhelming ambition that Joe Biden manifested going back 50 years.
All right. Now, I did want to get a quick reaction from you to the president's Middle Eastern trip, which I've given an A+ to with an asterisk, the asterisk being not so sure about the Syria sanction lifting. What do you think, Senator Cotton?
Very successful trip, Hugh. This is a trip primarily about the economy and trade and finance deals, and he signed significant deals there. He did also announce that we'd be lifting sanctions on Syria. I think it's a time for Ahmed al-Shara, the new leader of Syria, to show, not tell. Frankly, he's been showing for about 6 months now since they toppled the Assad tyranny in November. Our main interests in Syria are to ensure that any kind of instability does not radiate out through the Middle East as it did for the last 15 years of the Assad regime's tyranny, and also to make sure that Iran and Hezbollah don't use it as a foothold again. We've made that clear to al-Shara and his government. I suspect President Trump made that clear as well. There is a history of rogue regimes or even designated terrorists coming in from the cold, of not necessarily turning over a new leaf, not necessarily finding the goodness of God to redeem themselves, so that would be wonderful, but recognizing that it is in their interest to no longer antagonize the United States and our friends around the world. And if they do so, then we can, in kind, take steps such as removing sanctions, ultimately listing designations of terrorism, maybe even reestablishing the diplomatic relations. But the main thing we want from Syria is a stable country that has control of its own territory and in which Iran and terrorists and, frankly, Russia are not welcome. So let's see what al-Shara does.
Okay, well said. Thank you, Senator Cotton. I will be right back, America. Don't go anywhere.